So first, I wanted to start with Isang. How has it been since 2016?
Oh, my first album, yeah. So I brought that out I think it's 2017. And it means journey, and it has been a journey. We started out doing very little gigs in pubs and back rooms, and we've moved on to doing places that are on my bucket list, like North Sea Jazz, Montreux we did the other day, and being in beautiful festivals like this, and in the heart of Midi Pyrenees. It's lovely.
Um, we can talk about continental drift, which is an occasion of mixing cultures, meeting with different cultures. Has it been something from the start for you, mixing cultures and everything?
From the inception really of my band, I knew I wanted to write music particularly to reflect my Nigerian heritage and also my Grenadian heritage. My dad was from Grenada, um, and using that with jazz sensibilities has always been something that I've been very interested in terms of kind of composing and playing.
But as far as I understood, you were born in Nigeria, but pretty soon, pretty young, you went to England, and England has this kind of image of being a melting pot. Is it a true place to melt and blend things, or is it a hard journey as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think London is the melting pot because it's a city and people come from all over the place in London. And that's what makes it great. Um, so I think in that way, it is easy it was an ideal place to birth some of these bands that are doing that. Your Ezra Collectives, your Nabaya Garcia, who are all kind of mixing their heritage with jazz sensibilities. Like anything, there's always struggles with that. I think prior to the boom of the UK jazz scene, it was quite hard to do music like I'm performing. But I think the kind of boom of bands like Ezra, like Shabaka, etc., have forged a way for us to be able to write and perform music that does reflect different heritages and different cultures.
Pretty soon, around 2016, 2017, there was this kind of a new London scene. Is it still new? Is it still able to renew itself and flourish and invent?
Yeah, I think a lot of the probably did people who weren't that happy about the scene coming up with like, oh, will only last a few years. Well, as you say, 2017 for sure, 2018, we're now 2025 and it's still going strong. You've got bands like Ezra Collective who won the Mercury Prize, won a Brit Award, which is usually the domain of pop bands, and were supporting Stevie Wonder at BST Hyde Park, which is a huge festival. That just shows the continued growth of this genre, I think.
It's funny you mentioned Stevie Wonder or stuff like this. In fact, it's always been there, but maybe with a different label, and maybe journalism has to reinvent labels for music to be understood. Is it something that I mistook? But it seems like in the latest album there is even a little bit of Ethio jazz, like Ethiopian vibrations with this groove that is not typically Afrobeat or Nigerian, but more Eastern, or maybe just my feeling.
Well, I took so I mean I always have like a sketch of the grooves and then we see how we feel, but definitely so there's some of them are Afrobeat. Um some of them are Ghanaian kind of rhythms like that I was interested in, and we've kind of developed on that those beats. So I can't hear the Ethio influence, but it was definitely came from like Nigerian, Ghanaian. I'm into Afrobeats. I love high life. Let's find a way to merge those.
It's funny because so that's a natural question afterwards. What do you put in your music, and what do people hear from it? Do you have a feedback about it, or is it just you playing on stage? And journalists are not always true. What do you have a feedback from the audience that helps you and drives you moving forward?
Well, I think I learned. I mean, Kenny Garrett. I talk about him quite a lot. He's one of my absolute idols as a player and as a composer. And I've always tried to emulate him in terms of his compositional style because he writes these tunes which are they're so powerful. They're things that people sing along. Like some of them are like lullabies, like "Sing a Song," for example. And the thing about them is they are, when you analyze them now, sometimes harmonically very difficult or not as straightforward as they sound, but they are accessible for the audience. And I think for me, that's always been the thing that I've been interested in is writing music that that you can bring the audience into. So whenever I've had feedback, I hope it's usually people saying the music has made them feel this way or that way. And that's the goal, really. I don't want to just write music just for musicians so we can be how clever we are that we've written these very complicated music. You want to write music that the audience can experience. They can experience the emotions that, are there and that you've written down on the page. I think that's really what the goal is.
So do you mean the goal is to younger generations of jazz players, maybe? The goal is to remove yourself from all the codes of the ancient jazz, like performance, and more about emotions nowadays, and playing together and giving something that is a collective group.
Well, collective experiences, I mean, you're looking for that, aren't you? It's not just about the front person. Even on this gig, it's my band, but it's not just about me. I couldn't perform my music on my own. It is a collective. But I think it's more about making the music, making your message in your music accessible to as many people as possible. And I think there's an art to doing that. And someone like Kenny Garrett actually has that down. You've got people that would turn up to his gig, might be like, oh, I don't really like jazz. And then they're dancing or they're crying because the music's beautiful or it's upbeat and they're loving it. And that's really what you want. Why should you just go for a label of people that are just going to, just make it for one group of people? You should want as many people as possible to listen to your music, I think.
Is that the political side of jazz even nowadays?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on and people using their voices in all forms of music. We recently had that at Glastonbury. There was a few big music festival with a few protests. I think jazz has always been linked with politics in some way. It's definitely in my music. It's not the only message, but yeah, I think most people have woven certain elements in, I would say.
And so usually your music is labeled with some kind of a futuristic or innovative blend. What is the future of music, and how is hip hop getting into this kind of music? There was this album like a few decades now of Miles Davis mixing hip hop and everything, but you came up with some of it as well. Is it still hard to extend this futurism of crossing musical cultures?
I think as always, there's a natural blend between those two genres. I was at Ronnie Scott's recently and Common was there. Common, I was actually going to see Kenny Garrett and he was a huge fan of Kenny and he got up and rapped over Happy People. So I think there's always been this natural interest between the world of hip hop and rap and jazz. And now more days you've got people that are in, say, the jazz world who have the gospel chops. If this is crossover that continues to be there. So I think that's something that will probably develop further. as time goes on, I would say.
In the beginning, it was already there. Is it like the social boundaries that prevent things from gathering around the same deck, table, instruments?
Probably, and I think that's where something like a band like Ezra Collective probably have done a lot of good because, I watched them on the TV at Glastonbury playing to thousands and thousands of people who were dancing, and Ife, the trumpet player, was playing bebop lines. And that's the thing. If you'd asked anyone in that crowd, "Are you going to go to a jazz club?" They'd probably be like, "No." But they were listening to jazz. So I think, it's already kind of happening, and I think it will continue to grow.
And so, do you hope, I guess you do, always being nominated for this prize and this prize? And will there come a time where you will get the award, like Urban Award that you were nominated for? It's like
Well, I was lucky. I won the Urban Jazz Award. I won that a couple of years ago. I don't know any more awards. That's a pretty nice trophy. So that's a very nice addition to my mantelpiece. I don't think the award thing is something that it'd be very nice if I won or was nominated, but it's certainly not something that I am outwardly going for. I think I just very happy to travel the world with my band. I feel lucky to do that, I suppose.
I guess that was a way of asking, like, being a woman in a jazz world, is it still a bit hard?
Um, I think there's difficulties in anything. Nowadays, there are a lot more female musicians. So we were talking about the other day, a few years ago, I did a big band concert, big band version of This Music at Jazz Cafe, and we looked around and we realised that the band was 80% female. And no one had realised that until we kind of at the end of the gig. We thought, oh yeah, it was just the bass player and the drummer that were guys. And I think the fact that something like that happens shows you how far we've actually gone. I'm sure there's still work to be done, and as I do think, being a black woman, there's probably still a little bit of work to be done there, but I think we're on the right path, really. It's quite hopeful.
Thank you.
Thank you.